Alright, so I'm being bored, decided to just shoot a really fast video and found this meme. I don't know who made it, don't care, but I just want to address the points here because I did see them echoed by a lot of people on the Twitter, at least, different segments of it. This person who made this meme does not differentiate between social conservative and economic conservatism, which are two different things. But the state should only be there to protect the people by invading other countries that scare me, regulating all companies so they don't hire or trade with people I disapprove of. Okay, so the state should care about its citizens first because they're the ones that pay taxes, they're the ones that form the government, they're the ones that form the state. Okay, but regarding the warmongering, both the left and the right are warmongers. Like, if you look at Hillary Clinton during the last election, she wanted a no-fly zone over Syria. She is the one that said, we came, we saw, we bomb. So, no, like, the idea that the left are anti-war is ridiculous. They're the ones that are saying, let's bomb Syria because Bashar al-Assad is killing its own people. That doesn't really make any sort of sense. But all wars, especially in the modern age, aren't fought over feelings. They're fought over economy and strategic importance, economical benefits, and the idea that if you project a lot of power, people don't fuck with you. And if people don't fuck with you, it's good for your citizens because they're not fucked with. But in the case of the United States, if you look at the history, they were one of the first nations that made the decision to take away the gold backing from the dollar, which means that now the dollar is just a piece of paper. However, it's not just a piece of paper because people who work in the United States have to pay taxes in dollars. As far as I know, you can't pay them in jewelry, you can't pay them in platinum, you can't pay them in anything else. You need to pay your taxes in the US dollars. So for the American, it has value. But why would it have value for the Romanian? Well, because if you want to buy oil, the Americans made a deal with Saudi Arabia and Qatar that they will only sell oil in the dollar, and in return they get the protection of the US Army. Now, when a pipeline could bypass from through Syria in order to push oil into Europe, you can see why that jeopardizes that little economic affair and why the Americans don't like it. But nowadays, by the way, people don't know that America is actually self-sufficient on oil and it can actually export oil to other nations. So the petrodollar isn't such a great thing anymore. Still, they do care about it because the economy would take a hit. So basically, yes, the wars, the foreign wars with other people are to protect the American citizen, the American interest. And all countries do this, by the way. Like, why do they keep talking about America but don't talk about China? Don't talk about, some of the other nations of the world that aren't so... America is quite kind. Like, with the power that it has, it doesn't roll over Mexico and conquer Mexico. It doesn't roll over Canada and conquer Canada. It's not an empire. Like, people keep saying it's an empire. No, it's not. But what's also interesting is that the overwhelming amount of conservatives that I know are anti-war. I mean, the common pleb, the people on Discord, the guy that I talk with, they're anti-war. In fact, I know a lot of people that were leftists who didn't want to vote for Hillary and either voted for Trump or refused to go to vote at all because of this war issue. And I know a lot of people from Donald Trump's camp that gave him a lot of flack because he started pushing for, the war on Syria and started bombing Syria and stuff. So I don't see where the disagreement is here. And about regulating all companies so they don't hire or trade with people I disapprove of. The US is very lean on regulations compared to the European Union and compared to China. This is like one of the main reasons is why a lot of conservatives are upset that the government is regulating too much. But compared to the rest of the world, no, the US is regulating very little. The only exception that I know is that it forbids companies to boycott Israel. And if you look to see why this is because the Arab states started boycotting Israel and also did tertiary boycotts by boycotting US companies who were to trade with Israel. So if you're a car company wanting to sell your products into Israel, well, you're now boycotted and you can't buy oil. And the US, in order to, I guess they didn't like the fact that their own companies, their own economic interests in the region are being subverted like this. They said, no, you're not allowed to boycott Israel, and therefore, the oil companies can't now just strong hand US companies into not buying a product because they're like, well, it's illegal for us to do so. It's very similar to segregation, right? Like, I always try to figure out why a capitalist nation would have segregation, because it doesn't make any business sense, right? Like, if you sell a product to more people, you make more money than if you sell a product just to a smaller number of people. Apparently, there were at the time a couple of very wealthy and influential, rich white people that would refuse to frequent places where black people would gather. So this is why a lot of business owners would say whites only in order to attract those wealthy white people. And the moment the legislation was that you're not allowed to discriminate based on race, they had no choice but to go to these places, because the owner wouldn't be able to say, well, what do you want me to do? It's illegal to kick him out, right? So this is why you get, I suppose, regulations on companies regarding trade, so that you don't have tertiaries and people outside of the U.S. government influencing the companies within. This is like something that the leftist doesn't understand, the difference between citizen and non-citizen. Like, again, the citizen is the one paying the taxes. The citizen is the one that forms the government. The citizen is the one that has the right to the land. They're very aware when it comes to South Africa. They're confiscating the farms from white people. No, that's fine, because white people are the invaders. They deserve it. They shouldn't be there to begin with. All of a sudden, they're very, very aware of the differences. But when it's about United States, spending billions on keeping productive foreigners out of the workplace. It really depends. As far as I know, legal migration is allowed. Like, if you come there with your papers and you're at the checkpoint and you want to go there and work, that's fine. There are working passes as well. Like, if you make a business with a certain company, you can get. I have a couple of Romanian friends that, through a program called Work and Travel, they went into the United States and they worked. There are legal ways of doing this. No, the left doesn't understand the difference between legal and illegal. Like, it bypasses their brain. For them, a guest in your house and a home invader is literally the same thing, because the words, it's migrant, it's the same word. I guess it's like saying, well, you shouldn't say home invader, because that's offensive. You should say uninvited guest. So now they changed the word, and you have like guest and uninvited guest, and then you start shaming a house for not allowing guests in. And it's like, well, no, they allow legal guests. They allow the official guests, but they don't allow the home invaders. Basically, having a hand in every part of the economy, spending trillions to show foreigners who's the boss. Foreigners need to know who's the boss if you can show who's the boss, because again, it's for the benefit of. Why do people care about the benefit of their own people, quote unquote? And their own people is regardless of race or anything like that. It's like literally the people around you. It's because if your nation does well, you do well. Okay? If your nation does poorly, you do poorly. If there is an economic recession, the chances for you to find a job diminishes. If there is high crime level, the safety of yourself and your family diminishes. This is why people care more about their own country than they care about somewhere else. I mean, yeah, sure, I can hear something tragic about a country far away and I can say, wow, that sucks. But if I hear that there is something tragic in my neighborhood, then I'm like, holy shit, like all of a sudden I'm panicking. It's just human nature, the closer the danger is to you, the more likely you have to be scared. But again, like I genuinely find it interesting when they don't complain about China, which does the same thing but far worse and is not a capitalist nation. They don't complain about India. They don't complain about South Africa. They don't complain about Zimbabwe. No, like all of these nations, they can go on and do their stuff. But heaven forbid, like America decides to regulate its borders. China can regulate its borders. In fact, they're the ones that are quite silent when China is returning North Korean refugees all the way back into North Korea, where they're going to be placed in a gulag, if not outright killed, with their families. That's fine. That's fine. But when China has the Hong Kong problem, oh, they're going to side with China because obviously Hong Kong is in the wrong there. It's very interesting to look at that these people don't have principles. Like they just, to me, it seems that they hate the nations they live in, and they're trying to justify their hate, which is irrational. They are American phobia. They have a phobia of the nation they live in, and so that they don't look like bigots, so they don't look like people that are just hating America because they don't like it. They need to come up with certain reasons that look utterly ridiculous when you put them in perspective with the rest of the world. Like their main complaint is that America isn't an utopia. I kind of get that. It's not, but it's still one of the best nations on earth. Now, you look at the places controlled by Democrats, and I was just talking with a friend a couple of days ago. It's like, if I go to Africa, the worst thing that I can get, and this is like low chance as well, like it's very low, but I could get malaria. And like, that's the worst thing, and there is treatment for that. If you go in Los Angeles, you can get dysentery, you can get yellow fever, you can get the Black Death. Yeah, the Black Death. There are cases of the Black Death in Los Angeles. You can get AIDS, like all of these things. And it's like, holy shit, yeah, you can get AIDS because apparently there's syringes on the ground. You can step on one. Holy shit, and it's like, yeah, so please tell me more about how evil conservatives are and such and such. But no, like conservatives would definitely want a smaller government. It's just that they don't get very well represented by the politicians. Imagine, and it's usually the left that doesn't allow the representation. Imagine if a politician comes in and says, yeah, we're going to take away all of the public healthcare, we're going to take away all of the public schoolings, and instead you're going to pay 30% less taxes or 40% less taxes. And with that money, you can do what you want. With that money, you can have your own private healthcare. With that money, you can have this and that. Can you imagine how the left would freak out? How insane they would go? And if you look at the time and you go, before World War II, and I might be mistaken on this, someone told me this info, I don't know if it's legit or not, I'll have to check it. But America only had a sales tax. That's it. You have to pay. Man, I would love to live in such a place, where you just go and you pay a sales tax, and literally that's the only tax you pay. Holy shit! But anyway, they had like war bonds in order, like which were purchased voluntarily, like they didn't even seize the assets from the people. Yeah, I would like to live in such a small government. I would definitely like to live in it. Let me know what you think, and hopefully I'll see you guys in my next video.